pretty good this time since I have a headset and I have a mic. And I have my mic I was using before, but I have a headset now, so that my mic probably should not pick up any game audio, which means it should help with the audio levels. If not, then I'll probably have to raise the mic up a little bit again for the next time I try to record. But what we're going to try to do right now is we're going to try to finish up what's left of Strong on this character, and then we're going to probably move on to trying to figure out if we can literally just power through Dream of the Demon. I'm not sure if I actually have to change up my build once we get to Dream of the Demon or not though. Glad that didn't change. Already far exceeding anything this difficulty can really throw at me, mainly because, you know, I played through half of the regions with +9 stone of pendants, and it's very difficult for me to die. Not impossible, but it's quite difficult. I'd have to be doing really dumb stuff. I don't know the last time I actually upgraded my armor or tried to level up anything. I'm kind of just putting points in random spots right now because I don't have enough access to the points that I probably need. See, even being bad as I am being right now, it doesn't matter. I have problems. Definitely treated it quite cool. I'd like to go over that. Hopefully do that at least twice. Our extraction going. I can do their fucking animation. They not only gave me this for free, but it also let me block. Wow. Common shell. Ah, this is long. Look at you. Oh, this is that mission. Do this first. And then we'll do the longer missions next.
Yo!
Yo! Well, that was unfortunate. Ah, man, that 50% didn't help us at all. Fruit just says either it works or it doesn't. Feral is only consistent because Feral technically only counts your after image, but it also counts yourself. But you're supposed to be led under the pretense that it doesn't count your doesn't count yourself, but it really kind of does. You know, what I basically mean is, as opposed to where Phantom is like you press the button before you get hit, Feral is technically you press the button a little bit before you get hit because you're supposed to get your after image hit. But yet there have been multiple times where I felt like an attack hasn't hit my after image and instead really just hit me. But again, definitely more consistent with everything that we've done. Very technical. Shot, and let's press the button, press the button. That's how you get away with spamming Phantom. Press the button. Press the button. Why can't I circle through this? realistic at the time that I probably would have spent doing that. Like, my thing about this is, did all this happen before or after we got stabbed? And since, you know, half of those submissions don't even pop up until after you get stabbed, I'm gonna assume that it was after we got stabbed. After we got stabbed, we had to go stop Tokachiro, and so, you know, we went to the inner room, we, beat up Sutendoji. We went and beat up a house. Or whatever the fuck the fucking thing is supposed to be. And then we did all this bullshit. And then we went to go tell Tokachiro. I only use these because I can. No particular reason, it doesn't do anything. It doesn't. Using the poison or paralyze. Got him. Got him. Now we have that. I don't even know if we're using a divine one or not, honestly. Oh, it is divine. Oh, look at there. This mission first is shorter. Where is she? Where is she?
また
Oh. Who's that? I forget. Okay, yeah. That's the one downside of shop on something. Is that it's really good. It's a really useful fix. It's just that, you know, shop on something. That means that suddenly it's slower. All the timings you're used to are gone. Fire, refresh that. Let's go. Got him. Free? Yay! Oh. Like, I never see lightning ones, the lightning element bases of those. Like, where in the world? Alright, ADHD gamer, depends what you do.
まだいけるよ。
Because I will definitely tell you I'm not an expert, but I am decent. This looks so stupid. Dude. Where in the hell? We don't have any rhyme or reason right now because we don't have enough points for it to matter. Hey, she jumped scroll. Pretty sure it's not as good as the one I have on. I forgot you even got scrolls. I don't even remember getting scrolls when I played through Strong the first time. I feel like I didn't get scrolls until I got to Demon. But then at the same time, I realized, oh wait, when you get to Demon, you get scrolls of the Demon. So of course you got scrolls by doing Strong. So you know, I was just being dumb. Is this? Yeah, that's the one. That's not bad, but I mean, it's not. I like these effects, is what I'm saying. I saw that gold up, and I laughed every time at the thought of needing money. Like, I understand maybe you need money if you're doing, like, certain things. Also, I'm getting a lot of, like, skill-based gloves randomly. I don't remember getting that many skill-based gloves. I ate some oranges. But the idea of needing money is just funny to me. Because it's just kind of like, how am I using so much money? Like, am I changing my weapon every, like, 2 seconds? And then literally having to re-forge the whole thing? Like, forge it the way I want it, tamper it the way I want it. Like, I feel like it's a very big margin. But even when you're doing something like that, I still feel like it wouldn't take you that much gold. I don't know how many times I've sat down and been like, you know, I need this weapon to have this, and literally have it in like 5 minutes. Weapons are okay. It's armor. It's always the literal just Also, I hate this mission setup. Everything in this first set spawns with a ranged helper. As you can see, and I just hate range. They just make it because they just sit back there and they're like hot shotting you. Like, my man. That's fucking flow. Of course, obviously, but you know that's difficult sometimes, especially when you don't have the build you want for such a thing. Like, you know, these guys aren't a problem, but still kill, as you can see. This is only bees, hate only bees, one of the most annoying enemies in the game. Hands down. Not worried about standing behind the rock is good enough, I was wrong. You sit there and they're like, hey, I knocked them down. I got rewarded with the bonus damage. And then, when you try to pressure them, you instead end up in a scenario where you get punished for trying to pressure them after they, you know, decided to get back up. Which I can understand. The actual point of it, it's just, you know, that are kind of fighting game. Hey, wait a minute. But in the grand scheme of it, the best thing you can do is when an enemy's down like that, instead of trying to actually grapple them, unless you have something that increases your grapple damage significantly, you should just go into whatever your best, highest damaging skill, active skill is to do damage. For example, my Beyond Infinity is scaling off of Magic right now. Finally, what I have, other stuff, but I'm gonna take this. I'm gonna take the free double scampus because why not? I feel like there's a third. There should be a third somewhere, but I don't know where the third one should be. But hey, free double scampus. But as I was saying, if something's down and you don't have like an insane amount of grapple damage, or you're not going to benefit off of, you know, just getting the grapple off anyway, you can just go into something like Beyond Infinity. And that's a lot of damage that gets increased because of the fact that enemies have a multiplier that increases the amount of damage they take when they're out of key. In general. So it's not just for grapple, it's just in general. Those Adachi swings killed my keyboard. If you're looking for a dumb weapon, it is your dumb weapon. This weapon's stupid. Alright. Submission's done. Now we get to run through the main story. I don't think I'm going to actually take the time to do DLC though, at the moment. I might run back and just do it just for shits and giggles. But there's no innate reason why you need to do DLC when you go through strong the first time. I mean, you know, we can go look and see if there's like a, hey, you might want that. No, it's not gonna be the text. If for some reason you want to make a bow build, this mission is probably a mission you want to do. But I don't know. I'm not sure on the intricacies of just bow. That's gonna give you crystals the first time, but I don't know what it's gonna give you after you do it the first time. Samurai Locks is here in a Fabled Umber site, and another Samurai Locks on the Sun mission with the more crystals. So there's Samurai Locks in here, but once you get to a certain point, you're just taking your Samurai Locks and you're dumping them into the range yeah, the range damage, because the melee damage is on the weapon trees. That locks is, you know, it's enticing, but at the same time, I can't think of what I need right now. At this point, locks are just there to fill out the rest of the board, so I have everything at this. In all honesty, samurai locks, thunderous fists are not really a. Why thunderous fist though? I guess because you fight a thunder-based boss in that mission. Rubber side. This is big one. Locks. Yeah, it's just here mainly, which means it's not exactly a requirement for us to try to focus that situation. Let's try to run through my sleeve real quick. What can we do with those? Uses keys while guarding. Okay, well, this isn't bad. Look at that. One by Nioh. Let you press the button. I don't know the timing like you're supposed to, because there's a timing to make the combo faster. But I don't know the timing at all. None of those presses use it at all. None of those presses are good at all. Almost. Took it out like. It's like not really when you run it, but like right before you basically finish the button. I'm so glad that this one shot thing. I'm trying to think of the fastest way to get over to the other side without having to do this whole thing. You can't do it that way because you have to get, you have to get the water level down first, and then you can do it that way. The alternative is just figure out how to basically move it so that you get where you want to be on the other side. Because you're going to get there anyway, because we're not mistaken, you always get there. you always get there doing what you're supposed to do, which is why, you know, the only reason for flipping the switch is so that you have the shrine pointed towards the boss fight. So if you die, you can just go back, you can just go, you know, you go again. Back. You can't even get that level. Yeah, I was gonna say that you can just, you know, fall down here. Then I realized you can't even get to that level. Some water still there. We gotta go up here, we gotta do some things. Fighting in mid-stance is always a good idea in general, for the most part, if you're just trying to, you know, punch something, or, you know, cut something, or whatever. Because mid-stance, you know, it's not going to cost you the most, key. So being based out of mid-stance is a terrible idea, but it also, in this game, you shouldn't put yourself, you know, in one stance. You should try to be in multiple stances and use them for general use. For example, you know, you don't, you know, mid stance, you swing decently fast. It uses a decent amount of ki. And then, you know, you get the buff of the fact that you take less guard ki damage when you're in mid stance. So if you want to block something, you want to try to be in mid stance, and it's not even like oh, you know, I got to be in low stance and then I got to switch to mid when I'm not doing something. No. You can just literally, you know, like literally you can be attacking low stance, switch to mid, and block. Low stance, you know, it doesn't cost a lot. It's good for applying statuses. That's why we have security fists. And then it also doesn't cost as much when you dash. And it's also better for dashing in general because it, you know, it's longer and it's less fat rolling. High stance, you know, just, you know, punch it in the face. Make it bleed. Costs a bunch. Costs a bunch. A key. Does a bunch of damage. Wow, that ended right on time. I cannot believe it. I kind of feel a type of way about that one. Wow. I can do all that stance and shit. Now you know, be in people. Then end it. And you might ask, yo, what is that? Oh, what do you mean by that? No, well, you know, hold on, I'll show you. You know, you walk up to something. You're in high stance, you go bop, low, and suddenly you're dashing. You know, you go bop. No back. You get to be punished by the back. Fire shit. When we get in the middle, it's not gonna work. Put lightning on. Get everything. Fly, lost it. Easy. That's not useful for us. Weaving? Yeah, I didn't think so. Is that empty? I think. I think it might be time to empty. We can empty. For anybody that might not know, the benefit for donating to your clan is that you can go up in rank. And if you go up in rank, you can get your clans. You can be loaned your clan's special tea utensil. And tea utensils are important mainly because of the fact that they are your luck-based manipulators. You know, you don't have to worry about as much luck because of your tea utensils, eliminating some of the luck factor out of the stuff you may be trying to get. I was like, what armor did we get? And I was like, oh yeah. That armor's useful for only one reason. This. That's useful. Like reduce defense. What is that? What is this? Reduce defense, range weapon or something like that? Yeah. This is not that good. You know, 50% is you know. I forget what all of them are again. This value, which is taken from the combined values, is blah 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 blah. Increases your luck. Increases the amount of money you receive. Increases the drop rate of tea utensils. Which means, you know, overall is cool, but in reality, you just want it to be on here 90% of the time. Because getting more tea utensils is one thing, but having more luck is just, you know, the better option. But I take overall and everything because, you know, just getting more of everything is okay. House. I might have to throw on a cannon for this. But just because this boss fight is kind of goofy. Real big oof. There's like a dog somewhere, I think. I blocked that. Okay. English. I thought about using some shit, but then I said, no, we don't need shit. We can take it raw. Fucking house talking to us. Go in, flash. That music plays when you're surrounded, quote unquote. So no, surrounded is a status because you can get armor that benefits off of you being surrounded. Which I assume at that point is literally just, you know, something that says, hey, there's a bunch of enemies around you. So, here you go, buff. But I don't know that for sure. I don't know how being surrounded works. no particular reason other than I want to. Push that. Face. Hey, it's freezing on these 2 points. Might as well let it go. Fun fact, if you're having trouble, like if you don't know how to get word in on 2 points, just choose a buff. Magic. Let it run. Damn. Oh. Because as long as you are doing stuff blood encrypted, you will wow. Gotcha. I always have trouble with that shit. Good. Crystal buckets, but as you've already seen, I don't care about any of that. They scare me not. said, hey, I have switched. That I currently don't have any soul cores on my second value skill. I feel like I'm I was about to say, like, he's better than that on top of it. I blocked that. Oh, that was Tia. That's just Tia. Having trouble remembering. It's like one of those. It's like the same thing. Phantom's finisher is so gnarly. Like, it's just so lame. Like, Brute looks so much better. Like, you literally jump in the air and smack the thing in the middle of the eyeball with your hammer. You know, Feral looks cool because it's just, you know, you being all fast and, you know, Xing Xing Spirit Swords. But Phantom's so lame. Ranged option, but it's lame. That's not bad. Stop it. See a thing. That guy is snapping. Wow. Apparently, I didn't die. I almost forgot I needed a key.
うまく
男には仁義を通あとを頼むぞもっと蓄えと夢を叶えるにはまだ足りんまだ せん足りぬ。
あ、けどさ
I feel like I need to start playing on PC so that I can start making my videos in English videos. Absolute utter cringe. English Nioh is pretty cringy. RPG fashion, Nioh is the game that looks at you and says, hey, remember the first boss? Here it is, right in front of it. At this point, we believe the title of the first boss is so early in the title one that we just start putting them both together every. I mean, it's surprising, not awesome. I feel like that's probably the only reason this boss is here, because they probably literally said, hey, you know, they made you fight him. Yeah, never mind. That can't even be the case, because they literally make you fight this boss in a submission in that same situation, like right after you get done with that first mission. So it's just kind of like, it's why I laugh at that. It's like, son, you don't have to fight ever again. I'm like, no. But how many years like this? Especially when you consider the fact that you're gonna have to fight him anyway later. And not even like, oh, in a couple of levels, no. Man, it's literally still in that same region. Because she's like, I'll stay here and put out the demons. You go on ahead and fight everything by your damn self. Where's she at? Piece of shit. Speaking of, like going over like this, like. Because, you know, You're not fat rolling when you dash, unless you dash twice. And they're built for blocking, so you really just walk up in there blocking them and say, hey. Cannons. You over there. I'm supposed to. Oh, there it is. For a second, I was like, where's the thing I was supposed to meet up? And then I was like, oh, okay, it's up here. That's great. Lots of wood. I might not have said, hey man, I just know. Wow. Hold on a second. Okay, sorry about that. I took a phone call and I did not realize that the PS4 was going to do that when I plugged my mic back in. Because it was already acting funny about me having two quote-unquote headsets plugged in anyway. Wow. Not that close. You. Die. Thanks. You. Tell me, how much can you block? Oh, looks like you don't block that much. Wow, that's miss. Easy. let the heal happen. Get out of here. I can't remember what Rave of Terror is. Oh, snap! Sorry about that, headphone users. I think Wave of Terror is just a big mission where I have to fight, like, damn, Ryoma Sakura and, like, My way over there getting hit with the debuffs. Yeah, I think that's this mission. I hate missions with longevity, merely because of the fact that there's no good solutions to longevity. Other than to just, you know, try not to use resources. Oh my god. second time I failed out of it. Hey, Red Demon's here. This is mission. We gotta go save William's son.
It's been a while. Well, it's good to have you on my side. Going after me is one thing, but those cowards went for Joseph.
Those cowards went for Joseph. I am amazed how much follow-up. Almost equally as amazed as I am with how fast my health got back to full HP after dying. Those cowards went after Joseph. press the down button. So little
Are you all right, my boy? I don't know who he takes after, but having a nap here makes some goods. Thank you. I'm grateful to you.
For a second, I thought the machine might have bugged just then. Wow. Bad idea. Don't be there. I love that he throws the coin. Dead. Dead.
始めるわ。負けないわよ。
The amount of skills I've got just playing through strong is ridiculous. It's kind of hilarious, honestly. Because like you play, like when I played through the game the first time, I don't know how many skills I just did not get, and then it's like half the time when I fight these bosses, they just give them to me. If you just started playing Nioh, generally speaking, unless you have a background in Nioh 1, I would recommend choosing something that's got a fair good amount of reach on it, because you have to play the game to get used to it first before you can just walk up to stuff. Like, this is a very difficult weapon for somebody that just started playing Nioh because of just how short range the weapon is. So if I was just starting the game, I would recommend using something like sword, or not really dual sword. Dual sword is a very different. It's a very different weapon because dual sword skills benefit off of you dodging, which means that you have to learn most of the bosses before you can actually get all you can out of dual swords. But sword is a very good weapon for starters. Odachi is a very good weapon, and something like spear is a very good weapon. So since sword scales off of strength slightly, and Odachi scales off of strength, you don't have to. There are some enemies that there are some bosses that are far easier if you not really learn, as in, memorize, but more or less know what the attack does when they start doing it. Because some bosses literally just have attacks that are kind of dumb. In my personal opinion, human bosses are very difficult because they do a lot of things that you can do a lot of things in this game, but human bosses do a lot of things you can't do. For example, Mamio, the character right here that you probably meet at the very beginning, there's a switchglaive ability that when you have max stacks, it can do this burst attack. When you fight Mamio, you don't have an indication of her stack meter because she doesn't have one, because she can just do that attack out of nowhere. And that's probably the least egregious thing in terms of human bosses. But just for example, fists, this is a very short range, as opposed to something like Adachi, which can reach. And Adachi is not a bad weapon at all, mainly because of the ability Moonlit Snow, Moonlit Snow. Moonlit Snow is a very strong ability. Moonlit Snow Redux is a faster version of it that essentially does less damage, but essentially they're both the same thing. It's a very good ability. It does a lot of damage. What I would recommend is, you know, when you fight something, you fight it in low stance, you know, get a couple hits in, look for your shots in medium so that, you know, you have your bonus from blocking. Because when you're in medium, the difference between stances, in low stance, you can dodge a whole lot easier. Like, you can double dodge and you don't get the fat roll that you get from being in something like mid stance. Because when you double dodge in mid stance, you get the fat roll. When you dodge in high stance, you get fat roll. So low stance is your, you know, you're feeling it out, you're learning what they're doing. Mid stance is you're getting in there, you know, you need a dodge, but you don't need to, you know, like, dodge as much, and you need some consistent damage. And then high stance is they're almost out of key, or they're out of key. And that's when you want to hit them with a, you know, a decent combo like that, and then probably Moonlit Snow for the extra damage. But Adachi is a very good weapon in terms of reach. So I would recommend something like Adachi and Sword, or maybe like Sword and Spear, because Spear is also a very good weapon that has a decent amount of reach on it. Also, Sword and Spear both have a special dodge animation in low stance, which is quicker than most of the other dodge animations. I don't really know the exact science of why they chose to do that, but both of those weapons both have their own special low stance dodge animation. In terms of sets, if you're first starting out, most of everyone lives by the Church of the Flying Kato. There's a set. I'm not sure if you've seen Ninja Guy yet, but there's a ninja tutor. His armor gives damage based off of your ninjutsu power. This is seen as being a very, very overpowered buff, and so you'll find a lot of people saying, "Oh man, just use Flying Kato." If you go ask people something, and it's not that you can't use Flying Kato, and it's not that it's, you know, bad. It's just that, you know, a lot of people live by it, and they're like, "Man, Flying Kato is so good." So Flying Kato is a good set. It's very good. The alternative to that set would be the set that I'm currently running, which is Nioh Warrior, which essentially also has a benefit when you have max stats. I currently don't have it because I'm currently wearing a scroll with it, because I'm running both. I'm running two sets at once. But it increases your attack based off of your Amyo magic power. Now, don't get confused. It's not just your magic damage, it's also everything you do, which means melee damage, yokai abilities, all of it. All of it increases. All of that damage is increased based off of your Amyo magic power. No, but you'll find that the game is easier when you utilize both magic and ninjutsu. In other words, the game really likes it, or you can get a lot of benefit out of. That was unfortunate. I hate that move has pushback. But you'll notice that you'll get a lot of benefit out of using a multitude of tools rather than sticking to just one set of tools. For example, I am heavily magic based, but I'm still using sub ninjutsu because I'm using quick change, scroll, and power pill. Power pill is just a raw damage buff. It gives you like 20% increased damage. And quick change, whenever I die, not by drowning, just for record, whenever I die from like an enemy killing me, I will basically disappear, and then I will reappear where I was, but in the air, so that I can essentially have two lives. If you ever played Kingdom Hearts or something like that, it's essentially a second chance. You know, you get hit for lethal damage, but you don't actually die. Oh. Almost died again. And that's another thing you gotta be careful of. Something like, you know, something you'll learn is the game very early on will teach you that the developers like to surprise you, and they also like to put enemies in spots where they could easily knock you off if you're not careful. Mainly that you know, you'll be walking through a corridor and you know you won't pay no mind to it, and you'll walk under an arch or something, and an enemy will literally just drop down on you and hit you. That happens very often. You'll find. So you know, it's one of those things where it's like, you know, be on your guard, but you know, it's not exactly so unbearable. It's ridiculous. Yeah, they set up ambushes a lot. Like technically, if you're not paying attention, what I just walked into was technically an ambush, because you can easily walk past this area, see that enemy, and literally walk up to him, and then that enemy that was in here will just come out and hit you. So you know, that was partially just, you know, knowing that that enemy was there and also being aware of it. Like, this is about to be an interesting situation. I hate fighting. One of the other things you'll notice the game does a lot is they'll put you up against an enemy, like right now. If you want a safe bet, Kato, which is the red fire dog, is a good option. But if you want the best burst counter, because there are 3 different burst counters, as you'll notice, is that you have your demon form essentially, and your demon form has a counter attached to it. For example, I'm using Phantom right now, which is the purple one. That's based off of ranged abilities. Phantom is more like a parry. So if you're good at basically, you know, just seeing the enemy attack come towards you, then Phantom's really good for, you know, and burst attacks are when enemies glow red. They'll like glow red and they'll start doing some, you know, really ridiculous move probably. That can be burst countered. And so Phantom works like a parry. So if I press Phantom right before the attack would hit me, then it burst counters it, and I get extra damage, as well as the fact that I avoid the damage from the attack. And when you get down the Shifling tree, which is one of the skill trees that you have access to, you'll eventually get abilities that allow you to benefit more off of things when you burst counter. For example, there's an ability that lets you get more HP, or not more HP. If you're at like low levels of HP, it will literally give you like 30% of your HP back. There's an ability that gives you Ki back when you burst counter, and there's an ability that gives you damage on your next yokai ability after a burst counter. But Phantom's probably the safest one that makes the most sense. Brute is the one that is more of a tech option. Brute can't burst counter all of the burst attacks in the game, but it can stop the ones you don't want to deal with. For example, there are some attacks that take a long, when they do the burst move, they take a long time for them to charge up. And during that charge up time, if you use Brute's burst counter, which is basically what I like to call the slap, you just kind of fling your hand, you just kind of fling forward and literally stop them from doing anything. So it's more of the proactive version of the burst counter rather than the, you know, defensive version. But it can't burst counter everything, and it can't burst counter everything not because of just, you know, pure design, but it's because of the fact of the matter that you know, things without that charge up can't be burst counter. Because if you don't have time to throw out the attack, then it won't count. And that's why Brute can't counter everything. But everyone's go-to, that's basically like, you know, it's similar to the flying Kato situation. Most people live and die by feral, which is the blue one. The blue one is essentially it's a parry, but it's also a dodge, but it also works funny. And the reason I say it works funny is because when you activate it, it will fling you forward like a dash, but it will leave a after image behind you. And if things that do burst attacks hit the after image, then it counts as a parry. But it's only if you go forward. It's not if you go side to side, it won't count. But as long as you go forward with it, it will count. And so, generally speaking, sorry, I'm a little. I forgot. Oh no, okay, I was a little lost there. But generally speaking, if something burst counters, it's not exactly bad to have the option of literally having iframes on your ability, which is why everyone basically is like Feral's the best, because Feral is the only one that has guaranteed iframes, because Phantom doesn't have iframes. When you do Phantom and you miss burst counter, all it does is basically put you in a guard state. So it's almost as if you were blocking. It's not that you aren't getting hit, it's only that you're blocking it instead of, you know, actually avoiding the damage. And you know, the problem with that, of course, is blocking reduces your ki, which means that if you were to block something in Phantom because you missed the opportunity to burst counter, or you missed the burst counter window, then you technically are going to be out a little bit of ki because it's going to count as a block. Which isn't bad. You know, if you want to look at it one way, blocking it isn't as bad as, you know, just taking the raw amount of damage. Because, you know, one thing you'll definitely notice is that very early on, enemies do a lot of damage. Yes, and when it comes to things like burst counters, if you go on YouTube, you'll probably find a couple of videos of people who are basically no hit something. Those people are really good at basically seeing what the enemy's doing and knowing how to react based off of their position. So it's not that you require a large amount of timing, but the better you are at timing, the easier fighting some enemies are going to be. Now, there's for the most part, because I'm pretty sure, you know, this is probably a thought, because I'm pretty sure everybody has this thought about a lot of Dark Souls-like games, because this game is kind of Dark Soul-y. The difference in basically this game and Dark Souls is Dark Souls really gives you the opportunity to take advantage of your enemy for knowing when to dodge through their attack, because sometimes their attack is so big that dodging it isn't enough, but dodging gives you enough iframes to dodge the hitbox. And so Nioh has the same situation. You can dodge attack hitboxes by taking advantage of dodge iframes, but you also have to deal with the fact that there are some enemies that just have hitboxes that are so ridiculous that dodging it isn't really an option, and so blocking it's the only real solution, or, you know, knowing how to avoid it entirely based off the timing of the attack. Because in my opinion, and in a lot of people's opinion, there are very few cheap enemies in this game. There are some enemies with some attacks that are a little dumb and are kind of unfair, but there's only one cheap enemy in my opinion, and that's a boss that's also optional. He's completely optional, because he wasn't added into the game until after the game came out. And like, in terms of DLC and all that, he was added after the entirety of all of that was released. They put him in the game as an extra boss. And in the grand scheme of it, he's really dumb. He does a lot of things that are just very unbalanced. Hence why I said earlier that human bosses can be difficult. Because yokai bosses work off of a span of, just knowing how to deal with them and knowing what their general attacks are. But also, if you don't care for spoilers, this is Final Boss. Technically on New Game Plus. See, he's out of key, so we can take full advantage. When he's down in a state like this, whenever you have a boss that's down in a out of key state, you can also go into yokai shift for a free grapple. The game semi-teaches you this at the beginning, but it doesn't really, explain it well, essentially. There's a boss at the beginning of the game that essentially wants you to do this in order to kill it, but the game doesn't really tell you that this is an option for every other boss thus far. Because I think what the developers were trying to basically teach you is that they were trying to essentially time it where you would do so much damage to the boss that you would eventually get to that state, and so doing it would just kill the boss. But generally speaking, yes, timing is important. But if you build correctly, and your build is somewhat like mine is, Final Boss isn't really about timing, it's really about execution. Because all of that was just me doing what my game plan is, and him dying. Now don't make no mistake, I can easily mess that up, and if I do mess it up, it probably equals death. But that's why we're using things like quick change scroll, because that means I don't die. And it technically gives me a second chance. But that being said, getting a build like what I currently have going on is difficult at the start. A build tip is there's a fire boss that's in the second main mission. He drops a helmet that is called Inanera's Mask, and it gives you a bonus for scorched enemies. Using that helmet in combination with what is called Ipidentara's Hammer, which is an item you can get later on. Hold on, let me get somewhere so I can actually show both of these things. Yeah, it gives you Life Drain Fire Attack B+, which is a actual huge bonus, because if you want to use something like Axe, you can also use Ipidentara's Hammer, which gives you melee damage increase versus scorched enemies, which means that if you're using fire-based magic or ninjutsu, when you put something on fire, you now do extra damage in terms of melee attacks, and if you have Inanera's Mask on, every time you do fire damage to something, you literally get a giant chunk of health back for it. Yes, the first mission, what the game would like you to do is just literally run past that guy. Hold on, let me show you, because I gotta do this mission anyway. But what the game wants you to do is that it doesn't want you to fight that guy yet, because that guy is actually really tough if you are unfamiliar with the game, because it takes you a while. Like I'm gonna be honest, when I first started playing the game, I literally would not move on until I beat him, because I'd already beat Nioh 1 before. Also, this is a New Game Plus, New Game Plus Plus. which is difficult in the matter that now demons have what's called Curse of the Demon. It basically just means that they're super buff, but not so super buff that I care. Which is basically the way to look at it. Because my build still does what my build does. Alright, so this guy. This game wants you to essentially do this. And then I think there's like a Gaki that's right here, like a little dude. And then you just kill him. And then you open up the gate. And then, you know, you run back over here, you know, you hit the shrine because, you know, why not? It saves the game and all that jazz. And then you head across the bridge, and then you play the rest of the level. Because this guy's hard if you are new to the game. But if you can beat him, and you don't care about any of the stuff going on over here, he will give you a key that will open this gate for you and literally let you skip that entire section of the level. But again, he's very difficult. Not only just because of new players, but also because, you know, he just does a lot of things that make it difficult for you to beat him starting out. But in terms of, you know, power level right now, I can face tank him perfectly fine and not worry about much of anything. Eventually we're gonna get here. When we get here, that was an example of a burst counter. Yeah, again, I think it would probably be better if I wasn't, you know, already at this stage where I just kind of looked at things and said die. For example's sake, I don't even think I have a. Actually, I might have a character that's doing nothing. Real quick. Well, I have to check. My character level has increased. I can show how difficult it can be. I'm not sure if this file is actually, I don't know, I'm not sure if I've actually killed him on this one or not. I don't think so. No, I haven't. Because my body's over there. This is when I was fooling around with dual swords. Again, very, very iffy weapon. I wouldn't recommend it starting out. Maybe I have killed him. Oh, no, I'm wrong. Well, unfortunately, I thought I hadn't killed him. But apparently I have. Hold on. Actually, I know how to solve this issue. Because it doesn't matter. Because I've already given up on trying to act like dual swords is a good weapon. It's not that it's a bad weapon. I just don't like it. Hold on. I'll open up the skill tree and I'll tell you some things that you probably want to grab, like starting out. All right. So starting out, you have your different things. First of all, we'll worry about the weapons in a second, but we want to focus on these four right here in the middle. Samurai, I would highly recommend that you get key pulse. Well, you have stance and you have key pulse starting out. You also have grapple. And you also have final blow. You already have these literally from the get-go. I would highly recommend you get flux. Flux gives you a additional increase in the amount of ki that you recover off of key pulses, which is when you press the R1 button. When you change stances. I would also recommend getting Flux 2 as soon as you can, but you can't get it until I think you do the first dojo mission. Flash attacks complicated, don't worry about it starting out. Getting running water for all the stances, low, medium, and heavy, highly recommend it. Getting Purify Yokai Realm for all of the stances, low, medium, heavy, highly recommend that too. It's just a quality of life thing because this increases your defense when you Purify Yokai Realm in mid stance. This, what is it? Dodging at the perfect time. Oh, this gives you the ability to key pulse by dodging rather than pressing R1. And, you know, getting key pulse, heaven, earth, and man, highly recommend that because what it does is that when you key pulse properly in low stance, it makes your next dodge cost 0 ki. When you do it in mid stance, you can block something and it will literally not reduce your ki gauge at all. And when you do it in high stance, it will make your next attack do extra damage. But generally speaking, you want to get these abilities first. All this other stuff under here, that's the complexity. You know, that's based off of build and based off of what you're trying to do. Over here, I would recommend. I like getting my anima bonuses or anima so that I can use more of my yokai abilities. Yokai abilities weren't in Nioh 1. Essentially, when you defeat demons in this game, you can get soul cores, and when you get their soul core, you can use your anima meter to do an ability based off of something that they do, which is beneficial greatly in a lot of situations most of the time. But for the most part, some of this stuff over here isn't really a giant priority, but getting Dragon's Echo is a good idea. Getting the Dark Within is a good idea, just because it reduces the penalty that you have when you're in things like Dark Realm, which is when the screen's basically black and white, and suddenly your key gauge doesn't refill as fast as it normally would. Or Yokai Realm, which is when the little black and white pools are on the ground and you stand in them and your key doesn't regenerate as fast when, you know, like yokai make them and all that. You know, these two abilities, definite must. This ability is a must once you start understanding how yokai abilities work, because it involves you matching the types, because you'll find that all the yokai abilities have a red, blue, and a purple. Red is of course brute, blue is of course feral, and purple is of course phantom. So if you're using a guardian spirit like, you know, the bird that you see at the beginning, that's, you know, lightning based, it is feral, which means that when you put blue soul cores in this guardian spirit, it will benefit from Dragon's Echo, which will give you 5% or a certain percentage back every time you use one of them, which is beneficial in terms of just keeping sustainability so that you can spam your abilities as much as possible. And then this gives you anima every time that you purify a yokai. No, what is it? Oh yeah, it allows you to use a yokai ability to purify a yokai realm, and it increases your anima. So, you know, very useful ability. Don't worry too much about this because I don't think you have access to it until like probably halfway through the game, because it's based off of Astral Wisdom. Astral Wisdom is a special mechanic that only increases every time you get soul cores, and depends on how far you've actually made it through the game. So don't worry too much about anything over here. Don't worry about this. Don't worry about that, honestly. Just worry about like these four. And in terms of this, which is one of the things I was talking about, when you get a burst counter, you get 40% of your key back. I'm not exactly sure at what point in the game, probably halfway. But as soon as it becomes accessible, I'd recommend getting this if you're good at doing your burst counters, this if you're good at doing your burst counters, and this one if you're good at doing your burst counters. This is useful when it becomes accessible, because every time you pick up a soul core, you literally just get a ton of HP back, which is useful for managing your elixirs, so you're not using up all your elixirs all the time. But in terms of all this other stuff, it's not that big a deal, because yokai shift isn't that strong at the start of the game. It's more or less just your emergency button. You know, when you're in trouble, pop it. Ninjutsu, you can't access this until after you do one of the missions, but as soon as you can get this, if you're going to use ninja magic, these are the best ninja magics available. If you for some reason want to use a shuriken build, I don't really think shuriken is that strong at the start of the game. I think it's more or less stronger when you get to New Game Plus or even New Game Plus Plus. But shuriken stuff is up here. But I would recommend just using these things. These things are really strong. I'd recommend getting the dashing so that you just don't use as much ki. Tiger running is useful if you want to run through stuff, but and not fight it. Just, you know, run around it. And then other than that, sneak attack is useful if you want to sneak up on stuff and literally do extra damage to it from behind for one attack. So it's kind of useful. So these three, and this, and basically anything down here except for, well, this is useful too. Yep, that happens. That happens a lot. Because, like I said, it's very difficult. Because it takes a minute. It took me a minute, even after, you know, because like I said, I played all of Nioh 1 using Spear, and when I ran into him, I immediately was like, all right, I'm having some trouble. But basically, magic. Not too much to say. If you can get access to steel, that's useful. That's the biggest defense buff in the game. It's like 30%. Biggest defense buff in the game. Barrier is a giant key recovery buff. Incredibly useful. So this and this are your musts. If you want to use elements, I would recommend using the talismans first. I would not recommend using the shots, because the shots are just not going to be sustainable. But the talismans will be more sustainable. Using a weapon that has an element already on it will be more sustainable. Later, when you get enough untouched Amyo magic, which is a stat that determines whether or not you actually use up the use of an item when you do it, then shots will be more useful. But starting out, I wouldn't use shots too much, or I wouldn't rely on them as much. And then in terms of weapon stuff, there's a lot. But generally speaking, you just have to look at what you're doing and basically decide what you want. There's going to be a lot of passives. and focusing on the passives is one thing, but generally speaking, don't focus too much on passives. Focus more on the abilities at hand, because the only passive that is just generally good is that most weapons all have one that says Relentless. All weapons have Relentless, which increases your maximum ki when you have the certain weapon equipped. Relentless is about the only real passive that's just like heavy priority. But getting attacks is more beneficial most of the time than focusing on passives. All right, I'm gonna try to do this and not look too bad. Because like I said, this is still difficult. It's incredibly difficult starting out, even if you know what you're doing. But I'm trying to give an example of how to deal with it more soundly. So you start combat, and you see, you want to dodge right before that attack hits you. That's the timing of it. You just want to get out of that situation. You want to block this, because you can block it if you're at full ki. If you're not at full ki, you'll take damage. If he does this charge attack, just run away from him. This is the first person. Ah, now dodge it. Remember, with Feral, you want to die. You want to do it basically right before. Then here's the golden message: of you are not required to engage every. He will generally always, if he's going to do the burst counter attack, he will generally always do it after doing 2 slams. It's very seldom that he'll just do it, but he will. But there's been times where he'll just do the burst attack like that. Speaking of the seldom, remember, just run away from this. There's no good ways to avoid it, and that's the fickle part about burst countering things. When you're not using something like Brute, is it can be very difficult to line up correctly so that the attack still hits you when you dodge it. Now he's at a key, which means we want to be in high stance. We want to be throwing the damage down as much as we can, and we want to go back. Ignore that buff I have, because he will not have that buff starting out. I have that buff because of the clan I'm a part of. Which makes this very unbalanced, actually. Or which makes this like 5 times in the grand scheme of things. Careful getting behind enemies, because most enemies have an attack that allows them to attack you from behind, or basically is a large swipe like what he just did. A little low. Basically, if it catches up to you, you want to make sure that you dodge away as quickly as possible. But remember, we're in low stance, because low stance is the best chance of dodging. It's the most distance and costs the least amount of ki when we dodge. And now that we got him low on ki, we're going to switch to high stance, get our damage in. Again, ignore that buff I have, because you will not have that. It will be a long time before you actually get the ability to have that buff. Now, enemies do take extra damage when you hit them from behind. Again, it's difficult because getting behind an enemy requires you to circle them, and circling left on this guy is a no-go, because that's where his attack's going to be. It's going to be towards the left, which means you want to circle right. But again, you want to be on the lookout, because if you're behind an enemy for too long, the enemy will typically use their attack directly designed try to hit you when you're behind them. As you can see, this takes a very long time because the sword doesn't do a lot of damage as opposed to something like, you know, axe. Axe does a lot of damage, but axe doesn't give you a lot of opportunity because of how heavy how slow the weapon is. You don't have a lot of leeway when you try to actually attack something. That's why axe is actually the best one. And most people put axe at the bottom of their tier list. Again, watch out for when he tries to do that because you're behind him. Because, you know, that's his secondary. As you saw, he did that move because he did that move the last time I was behind him and he couldn't reach me. He dodged the other time. Again, you gotta be careful. Remember, switch stances during attacks. So if you're in mid stance, you want to dodge real quickly, immediately switch into low and get out of there. So that was a very poor example because, you know, I barely got out of that situation, but luckily I blocked through it good enough. But again, as you can see, it takes a very long time. It does not take a very long time necessarily because of, you know, being new or being experienced. It's just the way the game's designed. It's very hard to kill that boss early on with any setup. But if you're decent enough with axe, doing it with axe is easy. Because I played through the entirety of the game the first time with axe because I liked the fact that axe did a large amount of damage. The other thing you want to do is if you do somehow beat that boss or you get to this section of the level, you want to get around to this part. You want to get up here, kill this guy. He's training the butt. And you want to hit this body right here, and you want to pick up the longbow. And this will be your first ranged weapon, which will be incredibly useful for when you have to deal with enemies like this guy. And you don't want to go fight him. And you just want to one-shot him, because, you know, headshots. And now you don't have to worry about those two enemies. And then, you know, you run over here. You have a guy here. You won't exactly know this, but there's a guy that's also like right here. Again, we're in low stance. You want to manage your ki. You never want to run out. Running out of ki is bad. Only bad things can happen. So whenever you're low, you want to try to, you know, chill back. But, you know, you get in situations like that where you get cornered and, you know, suddenly you go for an attack at the wrong time. Like I said, better to block something. Run out of ki because you blocked it. Run out of ki in general. That was unfortunate. I was grappling that guy, and so I was open to the attack. It's very difficult for me to play with sword. It's very I'm too used to either something just doing things, or for things just, you know, dying. As you can see there. Graves, I wouldn't worry about fighting any Graves early in the game. Just don't worry about it. Yeah, they drop gear, but you'll get the same about the same amount of gear from just playing the game that you will from them dropping. So don't worry too much about Graves. prime example of another mechanic. I forgot. There's a mechanic in the game called toughness. A statistic. And what toughness does is toughness determines how likely you are to be staggered from being hit while also reducing the amount of key damage you take. And typically things in heavier armor have higher amounts of toughness. Things in medium have about the same amount of toughness as they have what is called agility. Agility determines how agile you are in movement. To translate that, it determines how far you dash when you do a dash, or how far you dodge when you dodge something, and it also determines how much ki you use when you attack. So yes, you use a certain amount of ki every time you attack, but if your agility is something like A, you will use far less than if your agility was like C. And your agility is based off of how much percentage of your equipment weight you're using. Basically, anything over 70%, you're going to be in C agility. Anything higher than 100, you're going to be what is called encumbered, and you're going to get a debuff that literally makes you both run and walk slower, and also just destroys your key bar when you attack. So, you don't want to use 100%, but being at 70 is just a thing that happens from having heavy armor on and not being further in the game to where your stamina, which is the main stat that determines how much your maximum equipment weight can be. When your stamina is like 60, then you won't have to worry about being at C agility wearing heavy armor. For some armor sets. Some armor sets are just heavy as shit, and you're just going to always be in C agility. Which, in some cases, isn't exactly a bad thing, for depending on what weapon you're using. But B is basically average. A is anything that's under 29%. So, for example, if I was to... Do I have any, like, light armor? I do have light armor. Let's see if I can't get into A. Take the boots off. Yeah. So as you can see, I am now in A, which means that I now dash a significantly further distance, and also don't use as much ki. You can't really see because I'm using axe, because axe uses a shit ton. I don't use as much ki when I'm swinging my weapon. But I also ended up in C toughness, which means that when I get hit, I take a bunch of ki damage. When I'm attacking and something hits me, I am more likely to just stop attacking. Hence why you want toughness when you're using something like X, because you want to be able to do this and not get interrupted. Because, as I said, the tricky part about using X at the start of the game and for newer players is that X leaves you open in a giant window, because this, you cannot move out of this. Like, you see how long it took me before I could actually move again? Which means that you're incredibly open to whatever's about to happen. Even if you're using the light attack and not the strong, you're still incredibly open. And that's at generally all stances. So Axe is a very high risk, high reward weapon. Because even in mid stance, you don't have a giant window. Hence why you want the ability that allows you to key pulse by dashing rather than pressing R1, because you can do things like this and immediately dash out of it. time it right, you'll keep those. But I don't have that ability at the moment. The reason why I said dual swords is mainly a very dodgy weapon is because dual swords, much like sword, doesn't do a lot of damage. And when you don't do a lot of damage, you either have to have a strategy or you have to essentially be prepared for this fight to go on a long time. Which is sustainable when you have something like a agility, so you don't use as much ki, and I don't know what I just aggroed. I just aggroed something. And you don't have to worry about aggro. And you don't have to worry about the fact that, you know, you're gonna run out of ki or anything like that. Also, if you like jump off of a ledge or something on top of somebody, then you have a dive down attack, just for future reference. Which is what I was trying to do with this guy, but this guy's difficult because, you know, he has that board there to prevent him from getting dived down. If I had sneak attack from the ninjutsu tree, this ability, then I can stab him in the back. But I don't have it because I don't have any ninjutsu points yet. But since, you know, he's unaware of my presence, we're going to take the biggest damage possibility we have. So we're going to be in high stance. We're going to hit him up. As you can see, we didn't use that much ki doing that. Mid stance, we can block. So we don't have to worry about the fact that this guy has wide swings. You know, we switch to the low stance to dodge. We're vulnerable. And we don't use that much ki. Again, with something like Flux, we want to make sure that we're changing stance so we take advantage of the fact that we don't use up as much ki, coupled with the fact that, you know, we get ki back, just changing stances on ki points. Dual Swords is a very cool weapon if you can get used to it, but I feel like it suffers slightly from the same thing about why you don't want to start the wet game with fists. Is Dual Swords is longer than fists, but it's still short. Having something short isn't always the best when you're trying to learn the game. Because it, you know, leaves you in situations like that. As you can see, I dodged that attack because I did not because I dodged away from him, but I dodged through his swing. And that's more of a timing that you learn from just playing the game. Like, you know what side he's going to swing with and which side he's going to go to, so that you can style appropriately. Don't always, you know, bang on those kinds of things. They aren't always concrete. Also, be careful of things like that. There are a lot of enemies that will try to take advantage of the fact that you're punishing them for having opening. By, you know, doing an attack after doing an attack that leaves them widely open. So then if you try to punish him like that, it will follow it up with something to, you know, stop you from doing it. That's why you want to always be cautious. That's why I said that, you know, probably the best stance you can stay in half the time is low until you get the ki down on that, where you can take advantage of their actual openings that aren't as punishable. Also, once again, throw that button. The clan that I'm a part of gives me a buff when I purify yokai realms to give me a protection. Protection is a status that literally is basically overshield. Essentially, I can take a certain amount of damage before I actually start taking health damage. Hence why the clan I'm using is actually very useful, but it is not the most used clan. The most used clan is the Honda clan. And that's because the Honda clan gives a giant active skill damage. And in case you don't understand, what an active skill is oh, let me make sure I don't have anything other than what I think I have on. Yeah. Okay, so when I'm in low stance and I press square, which is the light attack, and then follow that up with triangle, I will do that move. So when I just do the square combo, you know, it's just a square combo. When I do the triangle combo, which is a strong attack, I do that combo. But when I press triangle, or when I press square combo, and then I press triangle at the end of it, I do that move. That move is an active skill. And so what the Honda clan does is that it gives me, I think, like 20% increased damage on just that move. Not any of this, but just this move. And that can be useful later for other things that are more concrete. I don't even know if I have any points. 4? No, all my points are for sword. If I had some points for dual sword, I think I can get to the move. Where is it? No, I can't get the move until I do the first dojo mission. But this move is a flurry of attacks. Is an active skill, which means that Honda clan gives that move 20% increased damage, which is a lot. This is what I was talking about Dark Realm. This is what's called Dark Realm. Careful of enemies in the Dark Realm, because some enemies have different properties while being in it, as opposed to not inside. For example, you saw that Gaki when he was out of key, instead of just jumping backwards, he also created this purple pool, and if you stand in it, you get paralyzed. You gotta be careful about this. And as you see, you know, it's very hard to keep a hold of your key while being in here because it gives you a key debuff. That's why I said you want to get the part of the shipling tree that gives you a reduction to that debuff, so that debuff is strong. And unfortunately, that literally plopped like right on top of them, which is not always how that really works. But yeah, you gotta be careful. Yeah, that's basically how it goes. Like, you know, you're not gonna do it first try unless you know what you're doing. But you'll get it if you just do it. If you just watch what he's doing and know what you're gonna do in response to it. But good job, man. Because I've seen a lot of people try to fight that guy and just literally just get so mad they just walk away. But you just stay focused. You have a game plan. You know, it's a whole lot easier than it looks, but it's still hard because unfortunately at this stage of the game you don't have the power or the tools to make that easy. Watch our keyboard. Fun fact about demons. demons don't regain ki unless they're standing in a pool, a yokai pool. So, don't be too concerned about, demons. Leave the demon alone for a little bit. Don't be too concerned about the ki regenerating if it doesn't. Humans though, humans do too. So don't leave the human alone. Trying to really ki level. Also, Nioh's ass because Nioh's ass. I might just use Axe on the boss just so that I don't have to look at him too long. We got some new stuff. I like to organize mine by rarity. Put that on just in case. That in mind, the other downside from running the level like this is that you miss out on a lot of other stuff as well as experience you could have gotten from just doing the rest of the level the way they want you to. But at the same time, it's not exactly the end of the world. There's always going to be other stuff that you'll have access to. We're going to take everything else and dump it because I want that. For more than one reason. Because this is how you're going to... the game doesn't allow you to just get magic points, but you can use the Kodama Bazaar, which, let me explain that. After you get your first Kodama, which is also near that area, like when you go to the gate, if you go to the right, there's a little ledge, and there's Kodama there, a little green guy. You pick him up, you get your first Kodama, you get a Kodama Blessing, which is the elixir drop rate increase. There's Soul Core, equipment, and Rita, which is experience, and materials. Collecting these not only gives you these buffs, but it also gives you access to these buffs, but it also increases the amount of just base elixirs you can carry. So when you're starting out, you can only carry 3 at a time. So no matter what your elixir count is, you will always have 3 until you hit another shrine. But these things increase that amount to where if you have all of them, you'll have 8. Like for the region, let me be specific. For the region, there's 7 in this level. There's 25 in every region. So when you have all 25, when you're in that region, you will always have 8 elixirs. Even if you don't have any extra elixirs in your storehouse. So that's a very useful thing. If there's gear that you don't want and you want to trade it for divine rice, which can be used in the Kodama Bazaar, you can just literally come in here and whatever you don't want, you can just select it. Or you can just do what I did, which was press R2 and just get rid of all of it. But the Kodama Bazaar has access to a lot of things. For example, arrows, elixirs, needles, all for exchange of divine rice. And it also has things like, what's at the bottom here, which are sometimes weapons, which cost, divine rice and gold. But when you're in the Kodama Bazaar, you might find something like this. This is a magic item, so you can't get magic points other than by getting the item that gives you magic points. But if you want to accelerate the process at the start of the game, you can get a magic item or a ninja item from the Kodama Bazaar and then use it throughout the level, and eventually you might get enough to just skip that entire process and get a magic point early in the game. And once you get a magic point, you can use magic. And once you start using magic, you can get more magic points. Hence, you basically open up magic by just, being able to get that one magic point really early on. And then the prime example, there's another one. I'm not too concerned about looking out right now. We're gonna get a cutscene. I know how much you loved the first horse guy. So the game said, alright man, first boss. A different horse guy. Because that one was red, this one's blue. Now, I'm pretty sure you're asking the question, is there any real difference? Yes, there is actually a vast difference between the two of these bosses. In terms of just, combat. But, for the most part, it's the same shtick. Be careful, he likes to use his hands as opposed to just, swinging his axe. He also likes to grab it. This is probably the first time to run into a grab. He also has, like, 3 burst attacks rather than just 1. So, he already has flexibility. He also has this ranged attack that he does. Or steel talisman. I am taking all kinds of perfect. Got a key. Start waiting. As much as we can. And the difference also is that when we wail on him, he's gonna do a thing. And he's like, I'm tired of you. Dark one. Because now we have these keys. We have first this ain't Nioh 1. We just don't have to suffer. Avoid attack, in there, do some damage, throw him in out of key again. Now, the game's telling you, hey, you can use your yokais. Don't do that. That's a very inefficient use of your yokais. We can use it a whole lot more. Now, you notice that his key is not filling completely. As we progress through the boss, the more times you put him out of key, the more time, less key he'll have overall. He also still has that kind of attack, which is kind of different rock throw attack, but it's kind of the same thing. Watch out, he's swinging wild. Dodge, do that. Remember, as you know the directions of the swing. So basically, you want to swing towards where he's swinging, or you want to dodge towards where he's swinging. And also, what I said before, bam, got it. Do a little damage. Supposed to do. So anyway, I try to get the thing. I'm supposed to do. I want to show what they basically wanted you to do. I might kill him before I do that. We have overshield, so again, I was probably a death. This is why I said grabs are a little shit. There's not an enemy in the game with a grab. Again, there's not an enemy in the game with a good grab. They're just all kind of bad. I messed it up. We're just gonna do it back. Send it back. They want you to do that. So when something's like completely out of key and it's in that state where you can grapple it, instead of grappling it, if you have a yokai shift, you can yokai shift into it. But the level tries to set it up as if it's a finish. But it's not really a finish. You're probably not gonna kill too many bosses just going into yokai shift. You're probably going to have an opportunity to do that move on a boss when it's in a grapple state, and thus take advantage of the fact that you are in yokai shift, and you actually get a bonus for doing it, because when you're in yokai shift, the more yokai shift grapples you get off, the longer the yokai shift meter will basically stay active.
And
that's basically the first level. And this is your first soul core, hopefully. Sometimes it won't drop, sometimes it will. That's just, RNG. Mizuki is actually a really good soul core. Gozuki is a beastly soul core. If you can get the animal. He did. And he's got to tell us his life story and also give us a guardian spirit. So if you didn't choose Feral, you then get a Feral guardian spirit. So, if you wanted to, you will get all of them eventually. But, if you want to start off the game with Feral, if you want to start off the game with basically more options and pick something that's not Feral, Tokichiro's guardian spirit's Feral. So. Because if I'm not mistaken, if you start the game off with Brute, then Tokichiro will give you Feral, and then when you get to second region, someone will give you Phantom, which means you'll have all three. The entirety of this story is, you didn't have nothing else better to do. So might as well. That's the funniest part about doing. You didn't have nothing else better to do, so might as well. And roll credits. Now, I'll be honest. If you go into Nioh 1 after playing this game, you'll probably wipe the floor with everything, because Nioh 1 is just a vastly different beast for less reasons than the things are in this game. You don't run into anything that's like incredibly stupid in Nioh 1 until you get into literal DLC. Because when you get into DLC, there's all kinds of stuff that's pretty dumb. There's a reason why in Nioh 1, the like most go-to build, the flying Kato of Nioh 1 is essentially what they call the Guardian Spirit build, which essentially is a build that puts you into Guardian Spirit form and doesn't ever run out. So that you are always invincible and you're always doing OP things. There are builds in Nioh 2 that are very similar for Yokai Shift, but Yokai Shift is a very nerfed version of Living Weapon or Guardian Spirit form, as opposed to how it was in Nioh 1. So it's not that you can be in Yokai Shift forever. It's just that you can do a lot of things in Yokai Shift. It's just that, you know, it's balanced. Heaven forbid something be balanced. But Nioh 2 still gives you the opportunity to do a lot of things that you could do in Nioh 1, such as, you know, one-shot bosses. That's still a thing. Takes a lot of setup, but you can still do it. But I think that'll do me for right now. So, hope I helped you out. Hope you found everything useful. Good job beating Horseman. Because Horseman's annoying. Unfortunately, get used to him because they like to reuse him in a lot of levels. Especially later in the game. Later in the game, they literally throw him and the other one at you at the same time. Not really at the same time, just kind of, most of the time, you'll get one of them to half HP, and then the other one will spawn in. But by that point in the game, you have so many tools at your disposal that just as they designed, that enemy's basically like, oh, it's you. I ain't worried about you. it is difficult the first couple of times, but again, eventually you have so many tools at your disposal that, you know, as long as you're coherent and pay enough attention, dealing with both of them isn't exactly the worst thing in the world. But the game does like to throw both of them at you at the same time a lot. I believe there's a level where you fight the red one again, and he's just like out in the open. There's a level where you fight the blue one, and he's out in the open. There's like 2-3 levels where you fight the blue one, and he's out in the open. And then there's a level where there's a side mission where you fight one of them, and when you drop him to half health, the other one spawns. And then I believe if you do all of the exploration on the second to last main mission, there is a painting that you can go inside, because the point of that mission is that the castle you're in is alive, and so when you go through the paintings, you have to fight the bosses you've fought before in the past. There's a painting that's literally both of them at the same time at full HP. But again, by that point, you'll probably have enough tools that won't be that big a deal. There will be scarier bosses by themselves that will be more of a bigger deal than the two of them at the same time. But I think I'm going to head out. So thanks for tuning in. Hope I helped you out. Don't worry about Horseman, because I mean, you beat him once, you can beat him again. And I will catch you later if you're hanging around.